Welcome to the Propreneur Podcast, where we help practice owners become better entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Dino Wild. And welcome once again, everybody, to the Propreneur Podcast. Excited to have you here for another amazing episode where we get to interview some awesome people who are movers and shakers inside of our practice industry. And number one, we always want to bring you the best practices possible. Today, we have a very special episode because we have two. Typically, we have either our experts or our professionals that are talking to us, either our professionals who are actually in the business, in the practice, actually doing the work and getting their ideas and their concepts and how they've actually made it work successfully for them. Or we have our experts who are talking about a product or a professional service that they've created for those professionals. Well, today we have a little bit of both because we have both Dr. Clarke Stevens on board with us, which I'm super excited about. And, I guess you can call him his Robin, Davin Bickford there. So welcome you guys to the show.
Hi. Hey, Dino. Thanks for having us.
Hey, I'm thrilled to have you guys. So we've actually known each other.
I thought of myself as Batman. I have thought of myself as Superman, but...
Oh, so he's your Lois Lane, is what you're saying. More.
I know.
So we've actually known each other for quite a while. I've been able to watch what's been going on with WildSmiles, which is something we're going to talk about today for sure. And it's just an honor to have you guys on the show. I was shocked. I was talking to Davin a couple of weeks ago going, we've never had you on the show. So I'm thrilled to finally have you on the show. Thank you for being here again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're glad to be here.
So we start off every episode with finding out what people's stories is. I believe stories connect everyone, all of us together. We all have a story. And so I know you got two of you, but I would love to hear both of your stories. Number one, Doctor, how you got into actually being an orthodontist. What was the path? Why did you choose that path? And then definitely WildSmiles and how that came about. And then Davin, how you got involved in all of this craziness, which is in the orthodontic world with Dr. Stevens.
Well, I got started in orthodontics or just pursuing dentistry because of really my dad suggested it. One of the things I did when I was a kid, that we always went to dinner at the same restaurant, and there was a floor shop next door. And so the floor shop had this copper fountain in it. The water trickled from the top down in little troughs around. And so I was 12 years old, and I told my dad I thought that was really cool and I could make one. And because I'm a rummager. I always liked to get on my bike with my best friend and we go through trash cans at gas stations and stuff like that, and I'd bring home junk. And anyway, so my dad said, I'll buy you this copper and this stuff, and then you can make one of these fountains. And so I did. I spent all summer making that fountain. And then one of my mom's friends was an artist, and she said, I think you could sell that if you put it in an art gallery. And so I did, and I sold it the first week, and I thought, wow, this is sweet. So anyway, I was doing that at the time. I was going through high school. I made enough money to buy myself a Corvette doing that. And then, so I thought I might want to be an architect, and we went to Chicago to look at the Chicago Institute and stuff like that. And then I went to a thing at high school that was about career day. And so the architects came in and they were talking about the career, and they said, well, you go to architecture school, then you're an apprentice for a while, and then you finally become an architect, and the average income is X. And I thought, oh, wow, that's a lot of work for X. Yeah, I don't think I want to do that. So my dad, he was a lawyer, but he had thought about dental school. He said, well, how about dental school? You're good with that stuff with your hands. And so I'd had braces, and I thought, yeah, why don't I try to do that? So that's how I got on that path. And I got into dental school. I hated dental school. I hated the idea of fixing somebody's teeth. I told my dad, if I don't get to be an orthodontist, I'll be a bartender or something else. So I did luckily get into orthodontics, and I went to North Carolina for that. And I really enjoyed that pursuit. And it was really a great time because one of the things Dr. Profit did, he sat us down the first day and said, we're not going to grade you. I know you're all smart enough to be here. And so there's no competition, just learn as much as you can. And for some reason, that really motivated me. So I did better there than I had done before. So I like that. And then I don't know. When I got out and came back to Nebraska to practice, I started the dental facial program at Nebraska because they weren't really doing many surgical cases in Nebraska at the time. And then I always like to be creative. I got to have something going on. If I'm not building a new office or remodeling my house or doing something, I have to think of something. And one day, a little girl came into my practice, and she had this little heart-shaped necklace on that was about the size of a bracket, and she was 9 years old. And I looked at that bracket, and I thought that necklace. I thought that could be an orthodontic bracket. So I asked her, "What do you think if we made a heart-shaped bracket instead of that square thing that's on your tooth?" And she said, "Oh wow, that'd be cool," or something like that. So then I thought, well, I'm going to try that. I had tried a patent on another product before, and I got the patent, and it was an automatic doorbell where you ring the doorbell and then you could pick up your phone and answer it. So it was I never really got it marketed, but I knew the process of getting a patent. So I started down the patent journey, got the patents, and I thought I had the best idea in the world. And I went to Ormco and Unitech, and they said, "Oh, we have too many brackets now. There's too many prescriptions. We want to do it."
So we need another bracket.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, maybe I could figure out how to do this myself. And my brother was an engineer in an engineering firm of 90 engineers. And so I thought they had a room that was full at the time of books of manufacturers across the country. And so I went up to their library and I started looking through these books, and I finally found a couple orthodontic manufacturers. I mean, because orthodontic manufacturers don't tell you who they use. At the time, you couldn't figure it out. So I combed through these books. I found some people in California, and actually we still use one of these guys today because he's really very helpful. But that's how I got onto the stage, the WildSmiles stage.
From building copper fountains to, designing a heart bracket out of somebody's little necklace.
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to those school. Like, because you have that creative side to you, was that what connected you to the ortho side of things? You could be creative and the artist.
Yeah. Yes, I think that was it, because their dental school at Nebraska, at least, didn't encourage me to be creative with general dentistry. It was kind of a repair job. The tooth comes in, you fix the tooth. I didn't see the whole mouth as possibly something I could create a new thing with. But when I got to orthodontics, it was a whole different thing, because you're taking a problem and you're fixing it, and you're not just fixing the problem like with a broken down tooth, but actually you're creating something new. And then I love the surgical aspect of the orthodontic patients, because then that is really changing people's lives and doing something different. One funny thing is my parents were older. My dad was 50 when I was born. My mom was 40.
Wow.
So they were older parents. I had an older brother, 10 years older. And I think a lot of times kids of older parents aren't so engaged with kids their own age. They're really comfortable around adults. So I was always really comfortable around adults, but I was kind of shy around people my own age. And I did not change that until I went to orthodontics. And I read a book in my second year, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I realized, I'm actually an extrovert. I had no idea I was an extrovert. So that totally changed my life too. So all of that stuff went together to make it a lot more orthodontic fun experience for me.
Oh, that's cool. I love hearing people's stories and hearing how they connect their childhood to what they do. Typically, when I'm talking to, especially doctors, there's usually a couple paths that you see almost repeated, like dad was an orthodontist or a dentist, so I went into the industry too. I had a tragic incident or accident where somebody really helped me orthodontically, so I decided to go into that. Or I had no idea what I was doing, and it just kind of fell into my lap. And I just decided, sure, I'll do that. So those are usually the three. This is very unique and interesting, where you really see the artistic Clarke, as a kid, and then bringing that into your world. And even now with WildSmiles, that artistry is there too. Yeah, but I want to leave you on the back burner there. So tell us quickly your story about like how you got into this space and how you guys connected together.
Yeah, well, so I connected with Clarke when I was in college. And so it's kind of an outside of the box story as well, because, so I'm in economics and real estate degree. And I was all lined up to go into a couple of different industries. And then my junior year, I was out in Washington, D.C. with a group of students that were part of this weekend-long leadership development conference, completely unrelated to dentistry. And Clarke was my small group leader. And so it's like, 15 to 20 college kids and a couple of adult leaders from all over the country. And we just connected and hit it off. Though our personalities were similar, we thought about things similarly, and just really enjoyed connecting around the things that we both had interest in. And then, so that weekend was there, and then we kind of went our separate ways. And about a month later, I found myself in Nebraska for something completely unrelated to dentistry again, and for a Big 12 student leadership conference. And I thought, the only guy I know in Nebraska is this guy I met a couple of weeks ago. And so I called him up, and then after that, I would say that's when we guys kind of started connecting regularly and keeping in touch. And then as I got into my senior year, he said, "Hey, I've got this thing going. It's a new bracket company, and I'm looking for somebody to kind of help me get it off the ground and get it started. Wow. And would you be interested?" And I was like, "Well, I'd be interested, but I'm just graduating college, and what does that look like?" And he said, "Well, it's great, because I'm really looking for somebody who's going to think about things differently, because it's a different kind of product, who's going to really not bring any preconceived ideas about how orthodontics is or what the bracket is." And so I came up for an interview, and got offered the job, and that was 15 years ago. And it's been a roller coaster ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that the idea of looking for somebody who's not from the industry to give fresh eyes, to give new perspective. I think too often, no matter what the industry is, we get stuck in our old routines, and we can't do it that way because it's the way it's always been. We're seeing that right now, I think, in the world of having to rethink the way that we look at business, with a lot of the workforce that doesn't want to come back to an actual office, right? They want to work from home or remote. And we're seeing that in our industry, where it's hard to find people to actually come into the office and want to work. And so how do we shift that? So I think it was really a wise thing of you to do, Clarke, is like, let me get somebody who's not so rooted in the old traditions or whatever, and look at this a little differently. How's that served you, both of you, with that new eyes, and how's that been a challenge?
Well, I think it has been challenging at times, in that I think the initial startup is hard for somebody that doesn't understand dentistry or orthodontics. I mean, the great thing is that he had been a patient in an orthodontic office, and the orthodontist was a cool guy, so that was good. So he kind of understood that sort of vibe to it. So I think, but orthodontics is a really quirky career choice. I mean, we're all pretty independent. We're all a little bit different. We're all times can be difficult. I think, like today, I think my staff loved and hated me all the way around. I did things, just because, you just keep the way patients come in, you got to make quick decisions and move through stuff. And sometimes emotions get trampled on. So I think, if anything, that's been the hardest thing, is if we pretty much agree on things and on just about everything we do. And we don't really have too much struggle there. But if one of us happens to be short to the other one, it's just a personal thing that's hard. It's just a relationship thing.
Like I'm married.
Yeah. So, but finding somebody to think out of the box, Davin certainly is that guy, and he pursues studying things, reading different books and things that bring something different to the table than I see every day, because as I'm, bending wires.
Yeah.
Well, so I think one of the biggest challenges is that we were creating something that had never been done before.
Right.
We weren't just adding a new bracket with a different prescription or whatever. We were recreating the way that people and consumers think about braces.
Right.
And honestly, recreating the way that doctors and their team interact with the braces experience. And so that's no small task. And I think that, there's just challenges inherent in doing something new from the ground up. That's not just adding another product line. And then, the learning curve, Clarke was a great teacher, and in terms of the orthodontic side of things, but really the problem that we were solving wasn't an orthodontic problem. Our brackets are the same as any other bracket. They work just like a mini twin bracket or can be used with all kinds of different brackets. But the problem we're solving is a patient experience problem. And so how to address that properly took some time, some iterations, always learning, always, getting feedback from the customers that we have and the practices that we work with, and making sure that we're being
Mm-hmm.
responsive, but also bringing them something new.
And
so,
that also is not only solving a problem of, I know we've talked about this before, of decommoditizing the actual braces experience, right? I know the first time I ever saw WildSmiles years ago is like, oh, that's really smart, because now you're personalizing something. You're making an emotional, even more of an emotional connection. Nobody ever buys anything logically or what they actually need. They buy what they want. And so here to be able to give of the sea of, well, I guess not really a sea. Now there's a lot of other opportunities, right? There's Lightforce and Embrace and all these other companies. But when you're a kid sitting there looking at how do I want my braces to look and see, to be able to see something else a different way that gives me an emotional connection to, my football team or Disney or whatever it is, which we'll talk about, it decommoditizes the situation as opposed to, and makes you stand out as opposed to just being the same thing everybody else is going to give you.
Right. I mean, we talk about this all the time, that what we bring to the table is something that's very easy for kids to understand and for parents to understand. I can have braces with a design on them, that is a style that I can connect with. Yeah. And that is so simple, but extremely profound in the experience from the consumer standpoint.
Yeah.
And all the options out there are really fun for orthodontists to look at and think about, but the consumer doesn't really have the ability to properly evaluate all the benefits.
That's right.
So, but they certainly can look at a star bracket or a heart bracket and say, oh, I can get braces with a shape on it.
The thing about Davin is that he, from the outset, was very passionate about WildSmiles. He totally got it from the patient point of view. And we'd go to trade shows and we'd meet an orthodontist whose kid might want WildSmiles, but he just didn't connect the same way with it. Orthodontists don't connect the same way initially about it. The guys and gals that come by and see it and love the concept, they go forward and they do well in their practice because they realize that patients like it. It's something patients understand. They don't understand all the other kinds of products. And so that's what's really been good about Davin being on board, is because and sometimes when the questions came, like, oh, I had an orthodontist ask me this, and it's totally unrelated, but it's they sometimes an orthodontist will ask an unrelated question just because they don't understand it.
Sure.
And so that was the learning thing I think that would benefited Davin to be connected to me, because then he could bounce off that question and then he could go back to the doctor about it. Because, we're set up with a bunch of questions that aren't related to just the fashion or the choice and stuff like that.
Well, I think what you've done is you create this scenario where you're right. Not too many doctors go in my experience anyway, and try to, in a very short period of time, explain orthodontics to people who don't care. They want to know, can you straighten my teeth? Can you get the job done? And they want to know how you can give them what they want. Now, being able to show people there's a difference between just getting regular braces and being able to personalize this, it's a really powerful concept. Matter of fact, I know, Davin, you're probably familiar with this, but with Robert Cialdini's stuff where he talks about and when you're influencing someone, right, to give them something that's personalized, unexpected, and that helps people feel really connected with you and influence them on to be a doctor and be able to say, hey, check it out. I saw that you're a huge Disney fan. Let me show you. I can actually put Mickey Mouse on your teeth, so all the other kids will see that you've got Mickey on your teeth, right? That's personalized. That's unexpected. That's just not the regular brace. And by the way, when people go in to explain things like, well, let me tell you how a Damon bracket works, or let me show you how this works, like, no one cares. But if you say, hey, I got a Mickey a bracket, or I've got a University of Alabama bracket, and you can see they're a big football fan, wow, that's what they care about. So that's why I think it's brilliant. Wow. So let me ask you, in 15 years of doing this together, which I think is awesome that you've kind of had this growth for so long. And Davin, I mean, talk about loyalty to a product. You hear in this industry so many people switching from different companies. The wind blows a certain way, I got to get out and go somewhere else. In 15 years of working in this bracket, what do you feel has been your greatest success for the company and seeing this evolve?
Well, the greatest success, there's a lot of things that I could probably point to, but I think for me, it has to be when we go into a practice and we see it working. We see the kid in the chair, picking their braces and really enjoying their experience. That's for me where, you're in here, you're in your office, you're talking to doctors, you're thinking about the new things that you could do to bring to the practice, but then you actually go into a practice and you see it working. So for me, that's a great thing. Dr. Stevens might have
mine is similar to that. I know that the first, maybe the first AO went to, and we introduced them and we started selling them. Then there was another one in New Orleans after that. And this was just before Davin came on board. Anyway, there was a dental assistant that came up and she said, hey, I have WildSmiles on my teeth. And that was the first time I actually saw somebody outside of Omaha, outside of my office. And I thought, oh, wow, this is fantastic. That's great. So that's one. And then there was another one, and a little girl, her birthday is on Valentine's Day. And I happened to be in the front office, and stairs come up to my front office. And she was just running up the steps in front of her mom because she was getting her braces on Valentine's Day and she was getting hearts. She was so excited about it. And that was that is like 15 years ago. And I just saw her 2 months ago for a new retainer. It's very funny. She just loved that. So similar.
That's awesome. So that's great. I love hearing those successes and that feeling of really connecting with people, making a difference in their life. Where's been your biggest challenges?
Well, I'll go with that. There's been a couple things that have been big challenges. One is we've had some manufacturing glitches where, the industry's changed, and I know that there's been some companies buying and selling, so we've had to change manufacturers. So we've done that. So that's been challenging because you get it all built out for certain casting regimen, and then all of a sudden, hey, we need it. It won't fit on our machine. We need another kind of deal. So there's been some unplanned expenditures that way. Mm-hmm. And then I think another thing that was, well, I'm going to speak briefly for Davin. I promised him I wouldn't do that, but I know that I had been working on this Disney bracket. So I got the patent on the bracket, but I realized that I couldn't actually make a Mickey bracket unless Mickey said okay. Right. So that was a process of about 2.5 or 3 years. And whenever I talk to Davin about it, he says, I don't want to know anything about it till it happens. That was just a difficult time. So anyway.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, when you're dealing with the big behemoth like Disney, right? It doesn't happen overnight. No. I mean, that just shows really kudos to you, even for the push, the perseverance to actually get that through on there. What do you think that Davin has been some of the biggest challenges?
It kind of goes back for me to the piece of we're creating something new. And so, whenever I first heard about it, and was talking to Clarke about coming on board, it was a no-brainer for me. Right. I saw how this would integrate into a practice, or at least be accepted by the consumer. But then, kind of, young and stupid kind of a thing, and just got into it. And then like, oh, wait, we're actually running a business here. And there are going to be people that actually have legitimate questions, and you're going to have to answer them and help them understand what the benefit to them is. And so that has, especially early on, that was a huge challenge that for me at times felt insurmountable, because we are like introducing something new to the market, and how do you help people get to where you are in terms of understanding or seeing the value. And so, those have been the challenges, educational challenges. But I think that's inherent in any new product, and just kind of understanding that and coming to grips with that, and really seeing that we're here to add value, and we're here to help doctors add value to their practice, and really helping them see how we can help them in that way.
So then walk me through this. Walk me through, I'm an orthodontist and I've met you with WildSmiles. Like, what are those major benefits for me to be able to incorporate, and what's the challenge of it? Like, is it an easy integration? Is it something special I have to learn? Like, how do I walk me through this?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest challenge to implementing WildSmiles from an orthodontic or a practice perspective is that it's something new. Mm-hmm. And just that anytime a practice offers anything new or brings anything new in, that can be a disruptor for the practice. And a lot of practices, that's something that they have to figure out how to work with. And so what that looks like from us is, we make all the brackets, and this is Dr. Stevens' design, and he can talk more about the clinical side of it, but we make all the brackets and prescriptions and slot sizes that doctors already use. So they just tell us what they want, and we ship them a bracket with their prescription and slot size with the designer pads. So that is a huge hurdle right there. But then we come alongside the practice and actually support them with not only the bracket, but marketing support, utilizing the Disney brand, utilizing our brand. And we then train them on how to integrate that. So we actually go into the practice and say, hey, you're not out here on an island by yourself trying to figure this out. Yeah. We've been doing this for 15 years. We've been taking notes. We've been listening to the feedback, and now we have a proven implementation program that we can basically guarantee your success with this. And so that's fun, because we make it a fun thing and we make it an experience. Yeah. And we make it easy, and we take all the challenges that we've seen over the years and we provide answers right off the bat. So that's how we come alongside a practice on the clinical side or anything else.
Well, let me tap into that real fast, because I think that's really brilliant that you. And I could see where a lot of people could see WildSmiles or see it as a product and go, okay, that's cool. Now just one more thing for my office to have to figure out how to sell this and promote it and talk about it, and not really understanding the way that it really separates you from everyone else out there. First of all, the fact that you have that support and you already have the marketing pieces. Let's take Disney out of it for just a moment, but just marketing in general on how do you market this thing and not make it, and I'm sure you guys have heard this word before, and I apologize, but not make it gimmicky, right? Make it like a value add to what we do. Then you add the Disney power behind it. And when you're talking to these kids in phase one, these kids who, are already maybe a little shy, or let's just do two sides. They could be shy, and how this can actually help them like be more excited and proud of their braces because they got braces on. Or on the other side of maybe they see all their friends getting it too. So they're like, oh, just one of many. But now they're different, they're special, they're unique because they've got this other type of bracket, especially if it's a Disney type situation. So really, really smart way to be able to see how you can, a really smart, I would say, ad for you to give that to them and take the guesswork out of it, because you've seen it in so many other practices. And by the way, this is what the big brands do, right? You take somebody like a Smile Direct Club or a Candid. What are they doing right now? They're trying to get celebrity endorsements. They're trying to get these big influencers out there to try to say, hey, look at us. We got these people who believe in us. If these companies can say, hey, look at us, we got Disney to believe in us, like that's huge. And I see it as a marketing concept or perspective, as well as I think you do too, Davin.
Yeah, one of the things that Disney, we started working with them, when I started meeting with them, one of the things, and I went out to Burbank to their headquarters and really their marketing headquarters, which is sort of funny in its own right, because they have a Disney store on the property that only Disney people can go to. People that work there love Disney so much, they have the Disney store with all.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
Davin and I both hats from there, but it just cracked me up that they actually had a Disney store there. But
talk about people who are really integrated into their culture, right? Like,
right, exactly.
You're gonna not only gonna get our work here, get paid from us. Your mortgage is being paid from Disney, but you're gonna buy our stuff while you're working for us. Like, what other company really does that? Like, you're gonna.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's great.
It's a great deal.
Awesome.
But one of the things that they said that they were excited to work with us because it was a positive space Disney could be in the healthcare industry. And they don't like Disney to be in a negative environment at all. They want to be in a positive place. So they thought orthodontics was uniquely placed to be able to carry the Disney brand. So that's why we're excited about it. And I think we even have, after visiting their campus, I feel even more responsibility towards them to make it really good for them. One of the things that also in integrating in an office that Davin did not mention, but has truly happened in my office, and I was watching it today even, the team, when they kind of get behind it and they talk to patients about it, it's a personal engagement for the staff with the patient. Sometimes you'll have a new patient come in, they're getting the braces on, and they line them up, they got the brackets, put the lip stretchers in, the kid can't talk, and they're doing all this. And then when they're getting hearts or something or Mickey, then there's kind of a little bit of chatter about it. And then when I'm putting them on, I joke with them about it or talk to them. So I even engage with them in a different way because they're doing this. And that's not something I mean, it's just I do because it's fun. And it's brought for the team more fun in the office just because it engages with the patient in a different way.
Well, what's cool about that is, think about it. I mean, up to that point, the conversation is really around, are you getting braces or Invisalign or whatever? And the only real personality that they get to show up is choosing the color of the ties, right? Like, so which color would you like? We have all the colors in the rainbow. It's like, awesome. That's cool. And that you're great. You're a big sports fan. So you got your sports teams, or you want to do it around Christmas or Halloween or whatever. That's cool. But what a level deeper that is to be able to say, so why'd you choose Mickey? Or you're going to have hearts on your teeth for the next X amount of months, right? Like, that must really mean something to you. That's really cool.
Yeah. To circle back to something you said earlier about the marketing or the practice kind of being a differentiator. Every practice is selling a straight smile, a great smile when you get out of treatment. But what really engages people to decide where they're going to go is how you make them feel and what that early on bonding day experience is going to be like. And so if you can say, hey, we don't just make your smile look great at the end, but we make that experience personalized from the beginning all the way through.
That's right.
Now that's something that's really special and is something that, our practices really enjoy.
Yeah, you have a reason to show off your smile from the day you get your braces to the end, right? Like that's really cool.
Yeah. Why wait till you have your braces off to have a great smile?
I saw a guy today. He's a 65-year-old. He just turned 65 this past month.
Okay.
He has braces on for about a year, and he's a grumpy guy. He walks in grumpy. His dentist made him come. He doesn't really want to be there. And then, I asked him once about Bitcoin. So he's been a little friendlier now, but he's always grumpy, And so today I'm looking at him thinking, oh, you've got Nebraska Huskers on your teeth. I'd kind of forgotten he'd done that. And he would put the red ties on it. I think, wow, that's kind of funny. So now I figured out he is a pretty nice guy, but he was sure grumpy to start with. But he picked the Husker braces in a losing season. So I don't know. It's a funny thing.
Well, that's funny. How often do you get adults who want to get? I mean, I know it's probably geared more towards your younger audience, but how often do you get adults like that to do that? It's
not infrequent. I mean, anybody that's adult males, probably 1 out of 50.
Okay.
That would be that few. But then they just kind of want to stand out a little bit, I think. But then a lot of young females in their 20s pick them.
To show it off a little bit.
Yeah, they show it off.
Especially the Disney.
If they're working it. Yeah, they like the Disney and stuff.
Oh, interesting. So so shape-wise Disney, obviously you have the Mickey. Is there anything else that you have with that?
For the bracket line, we have the iconic Mickey silhouette for the bracket.
Right.
And that's we just launched with Disney last year, and so this is all very new. But with the Disney, we have expanded into elastics, and so we've got the elastic line where the elastics are this same elastics, just in Disney packaging.
Oh, cool. Okay. So you say so the gorilla, you're getting the the Aladdin or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Aladdin or Mickey or, whatever their favorite Disney character is.
Wow. To have I don't know. I guess I just look at it from a marketing perspective of to have the ability as a business owner to use licensed products like Disney in your advertising, in the way that you promote what you do. That's pretty huge. Like, you're not going to get that as an individual practice by yourself. Going to go through 2.5 years to try to convince somebody to license with our specific orthodontic office.
You won't be able to get an image of Mickey on your website.
No way.
Using WildSmiles.
Right.
Yeah, no way. That's crazy. That's awesome.
So I was in a practice this week implementing. And that's part of one of my favorite parts of my job, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is when I actually get to go into the practice. So this practice, very large practice, over 1,000 starts a year, big time practice. And he came up to me after the implementation and was just talking about how excited he was to offer WildSmiles in the practice. And he said, because, when you get this big and you're running more like a business and you have to have systems in place.
Yep.
There's very few things that you can implement that are really very simple to implement, but then make a huge impact in your practice. And he views WildSmiles as one of those things. And I think that's a testament to really where we're coming alongside and providing this, turnkey implementation training for the entire team. And we're making it very simple. And so from the doctor's perspective, he's he or she, in this case, it was a he, isn't really having to do much work to get this thing off the ground in the practice. But immediately before we even came in to implement, he had seen the impact that it had made on his practice. So
I think it's so great. And when you think about it, I mean, I was going with the idea of where you were saying, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes as a company grows and you have these bigger offices, the perception from the public can be that, oh, you're more of a corporate dentist, or I want to do the mom and pop, the smaller thing. But the benefit of using something like a WildSmiles with Disney behind it is we can still show, hey, we're giving you that personal experience, but we've got a big brand behind us that really supports us. That's powerful. Who is, by the way, your ideal client, both as a practice and then we kind of touched a little bit on the actual patient, but more so on the practice. Who's your ideal client? Like, what are you looking for in the sense of their mindset, the type of practice they run, multiple practices? Is there a specific ideal client you have for that?
That's a great question, and something that we've talked. Obviously, over the years, we've talked extensively about, like, how do you measure what our ideal client is? And Clarke can speak more to this. But from a mindset perspective, I would say that is one of the biggest areas that really needs to be present in a practice that's offering WildSmiles. Because size of practice, we have every size of practice, from corporate all the way down to one doctor, one location that's very exclusive with who they see. But one thing that they all have in common is they view that patients should have a choice, and they view that orthodontics should be a unique experience. And that's something that you really can't measure. I mean, it's hard to measure that. So yeah, what else?
One of the other things that I've noticed is that I've had friends that have decided to use WildSmiles and friends that have said no for a while.
And you kept them as friends?
Yeah, and I kept them as friends. But one thing I was in ortho in the 80s, and I'm kind of clumsy with my feet, but I like disco because the beat was so strong. So I kept saying when I was in ortho, I was going to have a disco ortho office. So I had a jukebox, I have a fun office, neon lights and stuff. It's really cool.
Please tell me you have a multicolored squared floor in your office.
No, I don't. It's all black and white and primary colors, but I have neon everywhere.
But you have multicolored squares on the walls.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say you can have that like in the operatory, like underneath as they enclose as they walk up. Oh my gosh, I got a design for a practice now.
Over the chairs are neon lights the color of the chair. So
nice.
That's even better. But one of the things that I've noticed is the ones that have come on board, I would say they've come around because they started their practice, they wanted to be successful, they wanted to make money, they want to do the systems right. They get all that going. And, it's not all fun. It's just a lot of work. And then I think they get to a place in their life and they think, or in their practice life, some of them that have said no before, they want to enjoy their practice. And I think that's the mindset change. I'm going to come to a place where I'm going to let go of some of this stuff and enjoy it. It sometimes happens when they get a new treatment coordinator or office manager that gets control, maybe not control, but opens their eyes to new things. So I think it's got to be a doctor that wants to enjoy their practice, not just make money in it, not just maybe focus on little details of straightening teeth. Because sometimes you have to take braces off on a patient whose teeth look pretty straight. They've been on for 2.5 years. They don't wear the rubber bands. You take them off, they look pretty darn good, better than they're not perfect, but they're happy and they leave and they even come back and they look pretty good 10 years later, which surprises you sometimes. But you really have to get a place where you can't be also uptight. You have to just enjoy your practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think that the mentality from wanting to enjoy your practice, and then also realizing that, success in an orthodontic practice can be a lagging indicator.
Mm.
And so if you've been in your practice for a long time and you haven't made any changes and you're doing things the way that you've been doing them for 20 years, you might not feel it right now, but in 2, 3, 5 years down the road, you're going to look back and you're going to say, hey, where did I need to change something that, because now I don't have the practice that I once had or that I would like to have.
Right.
And so, WildSmiles isn't the end all be all. We're going to fix that, but that's one of those things that you've got to be looking at and saying, hey, you know what? Consumers want to know they want a choice in their treatment. And this is something that I could add to my practice. That's a super easy, simple thing that makes a huge impact that will allow me to still enjoy my practice, but also see some benefits of patients still coming in, referring, those kinds of things as well.
Well, I like that you make that point. And for those of you that are listening that didn't quite understand, Davin, you were talking about that lag measure, right? Of like, okay, success is the lag, it's the end result, but the lead measure of how do we get there? Boy, what a differentiator when it's like, how do we get there? Oh, bring in things like WildSmiles or whatever the experience is to help us get to that success that we can't really control the end result, but that lead of what we can control them having a unique experience, having fun in our office, being able to brag about us, by the way, which is a huge other part that we don't have time to get into, but the idea of you're creating little mini evangelist out there, because most kids, when they say, oh, where'd you get your braces? I don't know, Dr. So-and-so, I think I got a t-shirt. They're going to go and show, look what my dentist gave me or my orthodontist gave me. Oh, where'd you get those? Oh, the only guy in town who can do it. That's huge. So these lead measures to get you to where you go is really crucial. That's really, really a smart idea and thought process. I love that you're talking about having a fun mindset, somebody who wants to enjoy what they do, and not just looking at this as just another way on both sides to spend money and to make money, but just to make you more unique and fun, and then create that unique experience. That's really powerful. And that's what most people want right now. If you look at all the metrics that are out there from all the data, from all the big wigs and the big companies, it's all about the unique experience. It's not about how good you do what you do and what school you went to, but your unique experience. And that's what you're providing. That's really, really cool. I like it. Well, you guys, we've come to the part of our show where we actually go into our rapid fire questions. Thank you for all the information you've given us about WildSmiles, about you, and sharing your story. And part of the questions is we're going to get to find out a little bit more of how people can engage with you and find out more if they want to. But these are rapid fire questions and rapid answers. And with the two of you, it's going to be a little bit longer, but are you guys ready to play?
Let's go.
Sure. I'm slow. Answers.
I promise there won't be heavy math or anything like that. That's fine. All right, so let's find out first. What do you think as you go through practices, Davin, and as a doctor, Dr. Stevens, what do you feel is the most expensive thing that private practice owners are missing in their practice right now?
Well, iTero, any kind of scanners are expensive. If they don't have one, that's missing in some of them. I think they're very helpful.
Okay, iTero scanner. Yep.
I tend to not be on the clinical side of things. I think the most expensive thing that a practice is missing is not looking at the patient from an individual and not providing an experience of any kind.
Yep.
That's an expensive thing that you're not offering it.
I agree. I think it's great. What's a book that you think every private practice owner should be reading?
Well, I've got Business Made Simple by Don Miller.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody knows Don Miller, but he's got a lot of great books. But Business Made Simple is his most recent, and it's fantastic.
Oh, great.
I mentioned before How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's been the best book in my life that I've read. It really unleashed me to be better. And actually, Warren Buffett even read that book, and it made a big difference in his life.
Yeah, it's a great book and classic. And I have a buddy who reads it once a year, every year, like at the beginning of the year. It's one of those, just every time you read it, you're learning something new, or you get sparked again of going, oh yeah, I forgot I need to be doing that. Or, I mean, simple things too, right? It's not like it's overcomplicated, it's simple things. And right now we know that the number one uh, uh, kind of trait that so many people are looking for, or personality, skill set, if you will, is emotional intelligence. And that's a book that I believe started it all off with people realizing, oh, I need to really be more emotionally intelligent around how to connect with people. So I love it. Speaking of books, so in my book, The Practice RX, I do talk about how culture and team performance is the foundation for growth in any area of your business. What do you see as the biggest challenge? You go into a lot of practices, especially Davin. You're talking to a lot of doctors, Clarke. Like, what do you see as the biggest challenge that private practice owners are facing with their teams and their culture?
Well, so many private practices don't focus on culture. I think that just one thing they're missing is allowing their team to participate in the culture.
Oh,
I don't know if that's very the best way to say it, but it's very top down, and the team could add tremendous value beyond just working there if they were allowed to.
interesting. I love that. I love that utilizing the human resources that are right there.
Right.
Yeah.
If they've been there a long time, they obviously love the practice and just being able to participate.
Yeah. What do you think, Clarke?
Well, I think that culture is certainly important. And I thought of a word this weekend that I think is maybe better than team, and it'd be troops. Because I think there's been a little bit of change in the culture in that I have two employees, chair sides. One can't come until I started, my office hours are 7 to 4. One can't come in until 8:30, and the other one can't come in until, has to leave at 2:30. And they would not work for me if I did not adapt my schedule to theirs. That wasn't true 10 years ago. I think you can have a great culture in your office, and I think you can have dedicated troops that aren't necessarily team players. So in my mind, I was just thinking about that word.
Interesting. So we go from staff to team to troops, right? And right now, I think you're onto something, because right now, especially in our world, we do need more adaptability with what we're willing to offer. We're still having expectations from them and how they show up and perform, right? But we have to be a little more flexible that way. I was running into this with a speech I was giving this last week, where a lot of doctors, it was to a female ortho group, and they were talking about how, they're trying to be sensitive to the single mom who has a sick child, or the mom who can't drop her kid off at daycare till 8:00 or whatever. And how do you deal with that? How do you have different rules for different people? And I like that idea of, when you have troops, they all are assigned different tasks, and therefore everything's going to be fair. It's just not going to be equal.
Yeah, they know the same. They know the culture. They know what the goal is, and they just are doing it a little bit differently.
That's interesting. Ooh, I'm going to dig into that a little bit more. That's a whole nother episode. That's awesome. All right, so let's tell people right now. Question 4 is, how do people get a hold of you, and how can they reach out to find out more about WildSmiles and about how you integrate and how it all works and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, well, so the best way to do that is on our website, wildsmilesbraces.com. There's a get started form, and just to fill out that form, and that would put you in touch with us, and one of our folks will reach out to set up a 15-minute call. And on the call, we kind of go over high level. We learn about the practice. We really want to make sure that we're learning about what your practice is about, so we can add value there and share how we can add value for your practice. And I always tell people, it's 15 minutes of your time, and if nothing else, maybe you made a new friend.
Oh, that's awesome. That's true. Yeah. All right. Here's an interesting one. This is going to be kind of again a knee-jerk reaction, and this is a challenging one. What is the best advice that you've ever received in life or in business in a sentence?
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, there's certainly a spiritual side to everybody. So there's my faith in Jesus was a big deal. But outside of that, that's probably the most significant thing in my life. But outside of that was never give up. I think that is the thing
That's awesome. And lastly, what's the best resource or tool that you think every private practice owner should be using to grow their practice right now?
Resource or tool? Well, I think it'll be WildSmiles.
There you go. Yeah. People don't talk about their own stuff. No, absolutely. Right. That's a great way to grow your practice. Uniqueness and defines you differently. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Any other ones you can think of, Dr. Stevens, or double down?
I think about that one quite a bit, but I also think some resources out there. I think one of the things I've always liked, I said, to have a fun practice. And I think there's a lot of resources out there for music and video presentations within your office that are important. And I think I have a really nice website. And I think your website really opens the door for people to see who you are. So I think that is something that's really important for people to feel comfortable with their website, and then also the video musical environment within that and within your office.
Yeah, I think it's super important. It shows off who you are, your character, and all that fun stuff. I think it's a great idea. Great, perfect. Well, you guys, that's been an amazing episode. Thank you for sharing all of this great information with us. I hope you guys had fun. I know I did, and I'm sure our listeners will too.
Okay, now there's a little something that I tell my team, and now my troops, every day is, let's go, Mickey. That's where I'm at right now. Let's go.
Let's go, Mickey. Nice.
There we go. Yeah, Dino, right. Thanks for having us. We had a great time.
Thanks.
I'm sure you didn't mean that from the Rocky movies, more of Mickey Mouse, right?
Yeah, more Mickey Mouse.
Well, thank you so much, you guys. Appreciate it. Now, for all of those of you that are listening again, first of all, I want to thank you all for tuning in yet again. Second of all, for always being such fans of the show and coming up to me when you meet me at events to say how much you listen to the show and how much you appreciate it. And, our goal always is to bring you the best practices for your practice. And we appreciate that you have shared this podcast with your friends and your colleagues and contributed in any way that you have. And remember, our goal always is to help you be more proactive, productive, and profitable in all areas of your life and business. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Thanks so much again for listening to the Propreneur Podcast. We really appreciate your support. If you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do so. Also, if you feel like you might be a good fit for our podcast as a guest or know somebody who you think would be, go ahead and email us at dino@dinowatt.com. Again, thanks for support. We'll see you on the next episode.